I'm the Great Allie.
And I'm Nawrocki.
I'm your host on Doki Doki Awesome.
And I'm here because I drank the last soda and didn't put another case into the fridge.
And today is a special episode of Animated Adaptions.
Nice logo.
Yeah, I stayed up all night on that one.
And it was well worth your time.
Today we're going to travel back in time to the 90s when that lovely animation house Nelvana is adapting a TV series for Sam and Max.
Who? Okay, jeez. I'll get into that one.
For those of you who don't know,
Like me.
Sam and Max were created by cartoonist Steve Purcell.
Actually by his brother, and there's apparently a funny story about that.
Yes, but that's another story. For another time. Sam and Max debuted in 1987 with their comic Monkeys Violating the Heavenly Temple. Sam and Max, Freelance Police, soon proved to be a hit, and Purcell created several more comics. A LucasArts adventure game was bound to follow.
And once a man has created an underground classic comic specifically for adults, of course now it's time to adapt it into a children's cartoon. Just like what happened to Jonan Vasquez.
Yes, but unlike Jonan Vasquez, Steve Purcell worked within the limits set before him.
Immense arsenal? That's funny.
What? Does my arsenal look big in these pants?
Yes, dance, my children. Dance for Zeus.
In here, jokers.
For the most part.
That's because Purcell wasn't a whiny little bitch like Jonan.
Language.
Jeez, sorry.
And anyway, don't insult Jonan Vasquez. The internet doesn't always like that.
But you like it, right?
Nelvana had previously created series such as Babar and the Care Bears.
They're kinda like Deke, except for that they don't suck.
So Nelvana started tackling Sam and Max the series. Despite having Steve Purcell working with them on the show, they were only able to turn one of the comics into an episode. That's what we're going to be looking at today, to see how a comic for adults translates into a cartoon for children.
And yes, it is exactly as good as it's.
Actually, Nawrocki, you'd be surprised.
We may go mad.
That is possible. Punch it! The cartoon starts out ordinarily enough, with Sam and Max in the office waiting for the commissioner to call them with another idiotic and baffling assignment.
Wait.
What's wrong?
Let me see that. Aha! Here it is. I knew it. We're not 2 seconds in, and we're already straying from the comic.
How so?
Look right here. Usually the commissioner calls them, but for some reason in this comic they get a postcard with the mission on it. Why did they leave that out? Looks like the mailman who delivered the postcard got stabbed in the back with a linoleum knife. That would do it. That's not the beginning, though.
Right. Before that, they meet up with their neighbor, Flint Paper, who isn't a character in the cartoon.
Why not?
Well, because he spends all of his time pummeling thugs and shooting bullets and being a hard-boiled private detective stereotype. In this comic, they find him hucking bodies from his office onto the street for trash pickup. So you can see why they'd cut that, too.
But those panels are on the bottom of the page, so this isn't the beginning of the comic.
Yeah, before that they were defending an ice cream man from rat thugs who were shaking him up for the goods. It ended violently and involved their guns. This was around the time you weren't allowed to have guns much anymore. Also, it didn't really add anything to the story.
Is that where the comic actually began?
Yeah, see? Here's the title page. See? Right there. Title.
So we're what? 5 pages?
Almost 7.
Yeah, we're 7 pages into the comic, and it's at this point they're all sitting around reading the comic saying, man, this is the one we're gonna want to adapt for the show.
I guess so. It's worth noting that, see? Steve Purcell is the only one with writing credits here. He would get a credit anyway because he wrote the original comic, but the absence of a second name indicates that he was the one doing the adapting, too.
Whatever happened to artistic integrity and preserving the vision?
Well, in the last comic, Sam and Max were driving aimlessly around the country and ended up stopping a gang of white-collar workers turned pirates from kidnapping all of America's landmarks to turn into a theme park and then marrying manatees. The guy might be a great artist, but I don't think he's in it for the artistic statement.
Remember, Max, just walk like a bloodless, emotionless being, and they'll never notice us.
Will I be expected to prepare anyone's tax return?
Now, before we start showing you how much of the story and dialogue was preserved, I'd like to draw your attention to two of my favorite lines ever that just couldn't be fit into the cartoon. Now, the thing is, at the beginning of a lot of stories, there's a phone call, which is the commissioner giving Sam and Max their assignment. And no matter how hard he tries, Max can never get there first.
With 3 exceptions.
Once when it was a trap, once when hell froze over, and once when Max altered the timeline so that he and Sam had never met.
So this time Sam answers the phone and says, yes, 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 right, because I'm bigger. All right. That's 1. And then he says it was somebody claiming to be the commissioner who sounded exactly like the commissioner and who I think probably actually was the commissioner. I think those 2 lines really give you the feel for Sam and Max's rapid-fire wit and particular brand of humor. Well, if those are the lines that they cut, just imagine that the lines that they kept.
Did you make sure to sew ID tags on all your underwear?
But I don't.
Oh, yeah. Me neither.
We better play dumb.
You mean starting now? Well, here we are on the moon. Pretty breathtaking, huh?
You said it, Sam. Everyone knows there's no air on the moon.
I was just trying to make you feel better. I didn't really mean it.
The preceding joke was conceived way back in 1978.
Either way, they pack the car full of junk food, stuff the engine of the DeSoto full of matchsticks, and use the thrust to fly to the moon. Those bags on their heads are their space helmets. Well, it is a cartoon.
Just yank that dippy bag off your head and let's follow these highway signs.
So let me get this straight. We can breathe here, then?
I guess those prissy paranoid astronauts never had enough spine to try it.
Ooh, I could never say that about an astronaut.
Okay, that isn't what he said in the comic, is it? It wasn't too bad, actually. He said candy butt astronauts didn't have the stones to try it. Okay, I could never say that about an astronaut. A moon rover picks them up, mistaking them for someone else. The someone else was apparently a partner in a convenience store holdup, so being technically on the side of justice, Sam and Max take them out. Again, with only minor tweaks, the comic works as a storyboard.
A little too much, actually. There's one scene that works in the comics because of the nature of comics, but in the cartoon, well, take a look at this.
By the way, you can put your hands down now.
Our mayor wishes to meet with you to discuss an urgent matter.
Hey, mister, you can put your hands down now.
The mayor is, right inside. Don't be afraid or anything. I've got to get back to the shop.
Afraid? Ha, we're too darn ignorant to be afraid of most things, right, Max?
Hey, mister, you can put your hands down now.
Well, if you won't be needing anything else...
Put your hands down, for God's sakes! Put them down now!
In the comic, each panel has the characters in a different location, but the way it's read, you get the feeling of a very fluid conversation. The need for establishing shots spoils the fluidity of the gag. I think it's funnier this way. You would. Inside, the Wizard of Oz tells them to go to the dark side of the moon to find the pests that are taking their citizens away. The humor of the situation, of course, is the idea of rats having a pest problem. Yes. In the Sam and Max world, not only do man-sized rats live on the moon, but also gigantic, towering cockroaches. That is the freakiest thing It's established in Sam and Max that the world is filthy. Be it in the comics, the original games, the newer games, and this cartoon itself, the place is always given a feeling of so dirty that you feel like you just need to wash your hands after reading it. Which is just the way I like it. But those giant cockroaches are still... Even more gruesome, the roaches are apparently using the rats to flavor their coffee.
I'm going to be sick.
Well, don't do it in here. Look, put on the light and...
No, don't!
Great. Now you gave away Sam and Max. Oops. Run, Sam and Max, run! Don't try to take on the roaches. They're bigger than you are. They run and Max is fried. Look, there he is, a smoldering little pile of sick. Now Sam gets to haul the charred remains of his best pal around in a moist paper bag. Are you okay?
I'm fine. Keep going.
Okay. So, in the comic, we see the essence of Max has now become a part of Sam. In order to have his little pal back, he takes Max's severed ears on a strip of flesh and forms a crude hand puppet. He then takes the bag of smoldering flesh and burnt hair back to the floating head rat so they can use their moon technology to get Max's body back. Oh, jeez, tell me that wasn't in the cartoon. No.
There. At least now you look something like your old self, even though you smell like a fire in a wheat factory.
Oh, Nawrocki, you said. I'm not lying. See? The floating head rides to them in a limo in the cartoon.
Really? Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Okay, I'm better now.
Moist garbage. No, that's how they save the day.
When I was hauling your remains around in that oily paper bag, the phrase moist garbage kept running through my head, and it gave me an idea.
Maybe something good will come out of all of this.
Besides a mouth-watering soup stock?
Why did I never realize how disgusting this comic is?
Sam and Max save the day by promising to give all the world's garbage for the moon roaches to eat so they no longer have to eat the rats. Allie? Allie, you okay? Well, she's down for the count.
Remember that linoleum knife stabbing from earlier? Well, it turns out that was part of a conspiracy by an earth roach to deliver a political message.
Why aren't you out celebrating? Don't you know this is one of the first cockroach-related holidays?
Celebrate what? The loss of acres and acres of valuable garbage? We're just giving it away. Why aren't we looking after our own vermin before we cater to foreigners, huh? Well, answer me, huh?
Which is strangely a valid argument in this insane world, a concern which is parallel to real-life issues. Of course, without the setup at the beginning of the mailman delivering the postcard being murdered in an attempt to keep them from the mission.
I love that postcard.
This ending comes even more out of nowhere than ever.
BAM! And then he was mucilage.
And then Harvey Atkin tries to sing again.
But Max will have none of it.
We here at Doki Doki Awesome do not condone violence against banjos.
Or bagpipes, accordions, recorders, muzak, or kazoos.
So, what do you think?
I think it was interesting, taking the comic and making it a cartoon.
Not only did they manage to adapt it across mediums, but they also managed to adapt it across target audiences. It's interesting what they could and couldn't get away with.
Some few choice lines that were missed with Allie as Sam and me as Max.
Uh-oh, looks like a 1028. Elderly ice cream man down. I'd radio for backup if I had a radio, or backup.
I love discharging firearms within city limits.
Look, Max, bullet holes, a bloody handprint, and the heel marks of a dragged corpse. Or maybe not. I'm next to blind in this half-assed penny-conscious space helmet. Hey, where do you keep that futuristic weapon, Max?
None of your damn business, Sam. But if you want, I'll write the answer on a piece of paper and you can read it sometime when you're sitting down.
And of course, this page, which is one of the most poignant things Purcell has ever done in his otherwise light-hearted Sam and Max career.
Yawn.
Of course, we get some new gems written by Steve for the show. Gems like...
It was the stern guiding voice of the commissioner with just the right kind of hair-raising case we can wrap our overactive adrenal glands around.
Are you talking dirty?
I'm gonna miss that little fella. He smelled like a fine gorgonzola.
So does your belly button on hot summer days.
And as always, I love the way guns are handled in children's programming. They're either turned into things that look like toys under the guise of space weapons, exaggerated so they no longer look like guns that children could have access to, or else eliminated without losing too much to the story. That's right. So remember, kids, be safe and only use comically oversized novelty guns.
Or space technology as of yet undiscovered by humans.
Well, that's it for today's show, but I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of Sam and Max as well as the Nelvana Company.
Yeah, you're the one who writes the episodes.
If you're interested in Bad Day on the Moon or any other Sam and Max comics, you can find them as part of the Surfin' the Highway compilation available from Telltale Games. You can also find Sam and Max Bad Day on the Moon in cartoon form as part of Sam and Max the Complete Animated Series on DVD available from Shout Factory. Both of those are available at www.telltalegames.com/store. Well, this has grown tiresome. Until next time.
Goodbye!